Yeah. So, well, thanks again for sharing everything. You have a book coming out.
Yeah.
So where can people get that book? Where can they find out more about you? Get in touch. Where would you like people to go?
Well, I don't know in Canada where you can find the book. Actually, how did you find me?
Amazon.
Okay, so Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon. It's called Food Photos and Styling. And yeah, you can also find a link on my website. It's www.frenchbeans.be. Yeah, or follow me on Instagram. That's frenchbeans.be.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you for having me. It was a nice conversation. Thanks. Okay, so what I would do first, this is a bit of a close up, and I have this kind of an allergy to straight lines that are not straight. So in photography, it's probably less of a problem, but in architecture and everything, you just have to get the line straight, because otherwise it will make you feel like you're on the beach or at sea in a very stormy boat. So I will get the line straight in Capture One. This tool, this tool, the Keystone in Lightroom. It's a similar thing. You can rotate it, or you can use this Keystone tool, or do it automatically. But I'll just do this manually. So then you can see there will be a crop. And these lines are now straight. I'm pressing V on the keyboard. That's the shortcut for just the cursor tool. And then the white balance is probably the biggest problem for this photo. There is in any editing program always a drop down where you can adjust the white balance. So now it's just set to shots, but we can use the eyedropper tool. Probably if I enable this exposure warning, then you can see it's all red. So that means these are the places where there's overexposure, which means there's no information here in this photo, in this part of the photo. And for digital photos, it's not such a problem, but if you want to print it, then it might be a bit of a problem, but that's just a piece of information. Let's skip that for now. So if I take this eyedropper tool and I place it on a part of the photo where it should be white, then the computer will do a calculation to get the white balance in the right white balance. But now you can see it's sorry.
The color of the food already looks like way more appetizing.
Yeah.
Like not so gross. That's cool.
So now you can see there is a lot of white here. So that's also overexposure. If you turn it on, then it's pretty much overexposed. So we can turn it down a bit, but let's see the exposure. If you turn the exposure down a bit, then you can't fix the areas in the image that are overexposed, that they have no information. So these areas you can't add new information, because if you try to do it, then you just get a gray thing. So my advice would be, if you have a white plate, then making the correct exposure would be to try to expose it in the correct way. And then if you have a white plate, then just slightly underexpose your photo, and then you can have more freedom in post-production.
Right. So it's better in the camera to capture something that's darker than it is to capture something that's brighter, because in post-production you can take something dark and lighten it up, right? Whereas to take something that's overexposed and darken that's more challenging. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's true. Up to a certain level, of course, because if you have like an entirely dark image that's totally black, and if you crank up the exposure, then there will be a lot of noise, and that's not so nice either. So I can just get the shadows up a bit. I don't know if you can see a difference. Yeah, you can. Yep. You see it. And then it's getting pretty yellow here. So then I would work on the specific colors. In Capture One, it's called Color Editor, but in Lightroom, there's also a few sliders where you can adjust the color balance a bit. And then you just take the eyedropper, select the yellow color, and then you can take the saturation down a bit.
Oh, cool.
Not too much, because then it's going to look really dull. And then there's a lot of green in this image as well. And I would also take a new layer here. Make the green a bit more green, not just yellow. Mm-hmm. And I can do this with the hue slider. It's this, if you see hue, mostly it's in combination with saturation. Mm-hmm. This means you can change the color of anything that's in your image. So this is the extreme, very green. Let's not do that. So just a little bit. And it looks better.
It does look better. Yeah.
So that's the before and that's the after.
Yeah.
I can do this like that.
Yeah, that's super cool. I like that split view.
Technology, right? Yeah. And you can also there's a lot of mobile phone apps for this, where it's easy to work with the sliders to get the colors right.
What are your favorite mobile phone apps for this kind of thing?
If personally, I never do it on my mobile phone, because I really hate the small screen and the small sliders and buttons. But if you want to, then there's Lightroom Mobile, and there's Snapseed. Snapseed is still pretty popular, or VCO Cam.
Okay.
Yeah. So VCO is more of a social media channel on its own, but it's mostly known for its post-production capabilities.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Do you want to do one more, that mushroom one you were mentioning?
Yeah. So maybe also it's good to show you the difference, because the image you sent me, I'm just gonna see if I can. Okay, so it's made with a Sony. Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then it's a JPEG with, well, it's not small. It's pretty large, but the format you are taking the photo in, there's JPEG and there is RAW. So RAW is a format that contains a lot of technical information about the photo, and JPEG is a compressed format. So what this does is just make your image smaller, and to do that, it just throws away a lot of information about the image, and that's why there's also a lot of overexposure, which you can't really adjust anymore. If you would edit a raw image, like, let's see, I'm just gonna look for the mushroom session. No, it's not here.
So if you edit a raw image, that information is there, so you can specifically change that.
Like how do you mean?
In those overexposed areas where there was no information in the JPEG, in a raw file, would you be able to change those areas?
Yeah, up to a certain level. But either way, you can change it a lot more than you would with a JPEG file. There's a lot of mobile phones nowadays that can capture RAW. Mostly, it's when you set your camera from your mobile phone to a pro modus or something, then it's in RAW. But be aware also, if you take raw images with your phone, your storage space will fill very quickly because they are very large.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are raw files. Raw files. You can see it. This is the extension CR2, and it maybe shows just a little bit of how I make a set from scratch. So I always start with an empty bowl or an empty plate, and then I make a composition with the plates. Then I adjust the light a little bit. So what you see happening here is I added a reflection panel on the right of this bowl because I thought that the shadow was a bit dark. So I added some reflection because I know it's kind of a deep bowl, and if it's deep, then there will be a lot of harsh shadows into the bowl. So it's good to have some reflection. If you're at a restaurant, if you're a chef or a manager, just take a white piece of paper or a white piece of cardboard, just anything that reflects the light and is white.
Bristol board works quite well, doesn't it? Like Bristol board, big Bristol board, they're big pieces of, like you get them from art stores.
Yeah. And they're also very handy because you can cut them up just in the center, but don't cut them entirely, just halfway through, and then you can fold it and just place it on the table so you don't have to hold it with anything.
Totally.
So here you can see this photo was taken with natural light, and the light is coming from opposite the camera, and you can see that it's a bit overexposed here. If I would try to save this information that's in these areas, then I can probably still do it because it's a raw image, and then I can just turn down the highlights, and it's not that bad. You can see it's white, but it's for web use, it's not really necessary to get all of this overexposure out. Just make it generally exposed in the correct way. So then I added the soup.
Very cool.
The soup is you can see some fat floating here. If your soup is cold and you have a very greasy soup, then it will show on the image. So make sure your food is hot and cooked as it should be served, because a lot of blogs, they show food that's not really cooked, and it just doesn't look very appetizing. So yeah, and then I thought, okay, so this mushroom soup, it looks a bit brown. So I took out some carrots that were in the soup just to give it some more color, and also this branch of thyme.
Nice.
And then this is the final image, and this is already edited. So you can see how it was before and how it is afterwards.
Much brighter.
Yeah. So and also blue is a good color for food because it contrasts with the colors that mostly are in food, which is red and oranges and brown. So if you have a lot of those colors in your food, in your dish, then just have some blue accent colors or a blue background, and it will make it a lot more fresh.
Got it.
So what I did here, you can see it on the left-hand panel, is I took the highlights up a bit to make it more fresh, and the shadows as well. There's shadows and there's blacks, and there's a difference, but let's just not get into those details that much. But if you slide this, you can see the blacks are getting darker here with the spoon. I don't know what else I did. Probably changed the white balance as well, because here it's green yellowish, and here it's more blue white.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Eveline.